This is Green Rush Revolution. My name's Ed Setti. We're here at Cannabis Conference here in Las Vegas, the first cannabis conference since COVID hit, and I'm here with Douglas Owens. How you doing, buddy?
Good, great.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And so you're from Oahu or Maui, or where are you from? Oahu.
Yep.
And you're trying to do a fully vertically integrated facility.
integrated operation, something that's going to be different.
Right.
I don't want to do this and buy for somebody and not know. I want to be able to track it from field to distribution.
Well, of course, because with that whole supply chain, you can have more integrity, you can have control of cost of goods sold, control of quality, control of selection. So it's very important to have that vertically integrated enterprise if you can handle it, because it's very costly. So so have you guys started planning this? Tell us about the licensing process in Hawaii and what's happening there right now.
Hawaii is very different. It's very hard to get into the industry. They only have a certain amount of licenses that they allow.
Sure.
And right now, there's been a ban on it for I think the past few years. So you're locked out, basically. No matter what you do, you can't do anything as far as consumables. It's only a few companies that can. And just getting a group of people there is very hard to do.
Sure. Well, it's also an island that's out in the middle of the ocean, so it's also difficult as well.
It is.
But have you seen like a resurgence of some? I know there were some local strains there, like Maui Wowie and a few other ones. Have you seen that prevalent there, or how does that look like?
They're prevalent. They're there, but there's also a few others, but it's never consistent, which is one of the things that I really want to try to strive is to get the consistency. People who need it for medical and find that certain strain to be something really good for them, that they can always consistently get it.
Right.
Opposed to get it 3 months, it's out for a year. Get it 3 months and out for a year.
Right, and that's really bad for folks that really need it for pain management or any kind of illness or something like that. And it's about targeted cannabinoid therapy, but it's also about consistency, like you said.
Correct. Yep.
And making sure these things move along faster.
Making them move along faster, and there's really no educational groups out there.
Right.
Which is one of the things that I really want to try to get going is, the people who have the knowledge, share it with everyone else so that they can be more educated and the stigma goes away.
Yes.
To where everyone is building for a better society using their cannabis.
Absolutely, and education has always been key. Out of my 26-year career, that's a lot of things that I focused on was providing education for people like law enforcement, or people like medical practitioners, or politicians, because they just don't know. I mean, we've all been pre-programmed by the drug war, and we just don't know, and that's why it's a revolution here, man. Because it's still fairly legal. We're all doing this, and I've represented senators, I've represented judges, and everybody understands that that this has been used for thousands of years, and it should be our freedom to use it as a medicine, right? But also as a textile, if we need to be able to help with sustainable resources and so many different uses for the cannabis plant. I would like to know kind of where your brand is heading in terms of that. If you were to get licensed, what do you think about that?
I think that that's something that we'll be able to get done. It's just going to take a lot of educating, I think, our government and everything else in Hawaii, so that they take the stigma away.
Right.
That they start letting it be used for the proper reasons and help everyone else.
Well, it certainly could be an economic boost for this.
It could be a huge economic boost, especially during this time.
Right. Exactly.
Hawaii is really in a setback now due to COVID and everything else. We've taken a step back. This could help boost it. We have tourists who come in all the time who could enjoy it. We have people who live there who could enjoy it, but it's just kind of keeping everything going.
But did they outlaw CBD or something there?
They did. They just recently outlawed, if I'm not mistaken, edibles in the state of Hawaii. So you can use oils and topicals, but any cannabis or CBD especially, edibles are outlawed now.
So what about pills or any kind of ingestibles at all?
Any kind of ingestibles, yep.
Really? So where does that leave people? For instance, the 70-year-old grandma that's having trouble with pain in her body, where she doesn't want to combust plant and smoke, right? Smoke. I mean, that leaves them out in the dust. They can't even they can't even do anything about it.
So those people, if they have any kind of issues where they cannot, light it or anything like that, they have to use a consumable.
Right.
They can't do it. They're just kind of left out.
So is there anybody out there on the islands that is voicing this, in terms of that?
I really don't know, but there's no groups or anyone actually fighting for those people's rights.
Right.
Which is something that
I personally think exactly. I think if we could centralize these folks and get them empowered to provide this education from the senior population that can't ingest now, that could be very valuable for you know, the state or, you know, the islands, you know, to be able to have that out there, right? Because I think that, you know, having that together would, obviously it breaks the stigma of saying, okay, you guys are young kids that smoking weed, right? No, these people are really using this for, you know, actual medical illnesses and pain management and things like that, right? So I think that's really critical. That's just incredible. But why would they outlaw CBD? And why aren't they following the federal laws of like the Farm Bill when, you know, CBD is legal here? I mean,
I don't know. You know, it's very hard. I don't know if there was something that happened, but, you know, I got that email a couple of days ago that it's just banned, and that was weird. You know, I have a father who uses it for those same reasons for it, because he has medical issues, he needs it.
Sure.
And it gets him off of the 12 pills that he was on, down to just a couple for his heart, but everything else for pain.
Wow.
I was using CBD, but now
has it helped him a great deal?
It's helped him great.
Fantastic.
I moved him out with me about a year and a half ago, and about 6 months into it, I started introducing him to the CBD.
Right.
He hasn't taken pain pills in almost a year now.
That's amazing.
You know.
So my father too had sciatica, right? At one point, and he had serious pain all over his body, and especially in his lower back. And it took me about a year to find the right type of products, because everybody titrates differently.
Right.
So, you know, what you give someone could be different from this person, this person, this person. But my father managed to find, like, you know, some pills that were actually the Level. It's called Level. It's a product called Level, but you adjust it, absorbs 99.9% body CBD into the body, and then using Papa and Barkley's product on his back, got him pain-free, off you know, meds, off everything, and it took a year to find the formulation.
Right.
With your father, was he just testing different products like that, or?
Well, I had taken a cannabis sommelier course, so I did that so I could have the education. So when I give my father something, I'm not testing on him. I'm actually have a little bit of knowledge.
Okay.
And I had some topicals that work great for his lower back, because he broke his back about 4 years ago, and that works great for him.
Yeah.
And he has a couple of CBD gummies that he was taking that were a certain strain, and they work great.
Right.
Another hard part in Hawaii is they make it for about 4 or 5 months, and then they don't make it again.
Right.
And then you can't find it for a year. So now my father, I'm sitting here grabbing different things, trying to see, because as you said, some things work great, some things don't.
Right.
So it's always trying to find that right mix and right blend when they don't make the product to give him to relieve the pain.
Right. And then coming back to, it's like, you know, come back to consistency, like you said earlier. This is, as a new cannabis entrepreneur, this is part of the paradigm that you're trying to create, is more consistency across the map. Are you like implementing anything with the current license holders in terms of that level of education, or maybe finding, you know, or other organization groups that are trying to do that to level out the consistency in the current market?
One of the things I'm hoping to gain from this conference is getting the right education so that I can start those groups, educational groups, knowledge groups, training, everything else, to bring it kind of full circle.
Right.
So that, you know, there's no missing parts to it.
Right,
So that's really what I'm working
Interesting.
for.
And, you know, I want to touch on this subject real quick, because, you know, obviously, you know, I was just on a panel here, you know, or moderating a panel here for the first panel of the day, and talking about social equity, right?
Which was good.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm wondering, like, what's happening with social equity in Hawaii? Is there anything mentioned about it? Is there, you know, are they even discussing this potential issue? Or
I haven't heard anything about it at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know. And it's great. I mean, I was in that conference. It was great. It was a lot of knowledge, stuff that I haven't heard in Hawaii.
Right.
You know, I'm not very ingrained in it right now, just because there's no groups to get together.
Right.
To bring that education there for people who are trying to get into the business.
But so there's a couple of different ways to look at this. Like, you know, because I train a lot of people on this. How do they bridge over into the industry in many different ways?
That's the biggest.
You know, I got a lot of people that come to me and say, hey, I want to open a dispensary, right? And I'm like, okay, why do you want to open a dispensary, right? And when I find out maybe it may or not for them, I just try to make them aware of other things. So coming from the ancillary support perspective, and bringing in like social equity into that element, and just demonstrating by providing leadership, right, as a way to kind of penetrate the marketplace, which will allow you to lead to eventually a full vertically integrated operations and provide consistency. You see what I mean? So there's different ways of entering the industry as an entrepreneur if you're not coming in with any experience or any capital or anything, just by leveraging what's around you, right? And so I was just kind of, I mean, I know Hawaii's like an island locked by ocean, right? But I want to imagine that some people share the same sentiment as what you're telling me, right?
I'm sure there is, but I don't think that it's been brought out yet.
Interesting.
You know, those people that are I'd say in the same boat, still kind of keep it very quiet. They don't really talk about it
Look,
much.
you got to have a voice. I mean, so so when I first started, I've been in the industry for 26 years, and when I first started, you know, really having a voice in the industry was around 2010. It was in Prop 19 in California, the first legalization bill. And you got to be out there in front, right? You got to take chances. Like, you got to take risks, right? And without risk, there's no reward. Just like all these folks are taking risks. You've got to be out there in front. Listen, if there's something that's not there, that creates an opportunity. Right? Because we know it's very important, right?
True.
And that's how you can align with folks who share the same values and the same mission as yourself. That will then lead you to a point, position of strength with the folks that you need to convince. Which, honestly, most of the time is just law enforcement.
True, very true.
It's either law enforcement or it's going to be politicians, sometimes corrupt politicians. Which every process that is a part of the game, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, you gotta, if you feel, you gotta believe in yourself, and then you gotta be able to, know what you're doing in terms of that, right? And I think that's gonna be a great opportunity for you, honestly. Quite frankly, because no one, like you said, no one's doing it.
No one's doing it.
Automatically, that pops in my mind thinking it's opportunity, right? I want to be the first to do that.
I want to be the first.
We know you already have all this momentum over here, right? Outside of the landlocked island, or waterlocked island, there's all this momentum happening in the United States that you can leverage.
True.
You see what I mean? And bring there and be that voice of reason behind this and really make it an issue. Right? Because right now they're just kind of like, brush another rug, say don't say anything, don't say anything. But if you go out there and try to rattle the cage a little bit, that's going to get them awake and open. And maybe they might open another round of licenses for social equity.
It would be great if they could,
you know what I mean?
Give people more opportunity, create more jobs, create more revenue.
That would be amazing.
Everything. I think it would be a great thing.
Absolutely. Douglas, thank you so much for today. Really appreciate it. And you have a great conference.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is Green Rush Revolution. Signing off. Thank you.